broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV. We're so excited to have you here for Aquarius, episode 5, called A Change Is Gonna Come. We're just so excited to have you guys here tonight, and so we just want to tell you right when we start, to subscribe to YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, whatever you can to follow us, tweet at us, give us all your comments. We also have a new survey called Podcast One. It's a 30-second survey that you can just take. We love hearing from you guys, so we want to hear all your feedback, and you can tell everything to us right there. So try to do that if you can. I'm your host, Paige Bonanno, and I'm joined by...
I'm Guy David. Just, fill out that podcast, that survey.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like me, just tell me you don't like me so I know I can improve, right?
Exactly. We like to hear the feedback, see how we can improve. So
but you can find me on Twitter, tweet me during the show, at Guy and a Girl Show, Facebook, the whole shebang.
Thank you. And you can find me on Twitter as well, at Paige Bonanno. All right. So, Aquarius, episode 5. How did you like the episode? What'd you think?
That was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
It feels like everything's... I understood that episode better.
Right. I think I did too, to be honest. It's
the first episode I watched the whole thing without having to stop and rewind and try and Google, and I actually understood what was going on. And it's developing. We always talk about... Is it about Manson? Is it about a period piece? Is it about... It's a period piece, which is what the show's about, because we saw the Black Panther movement. There's a lot to cover.
Right, I feel like this one definitely showed that, too, because we saw Manson here and there, but it was mainly about, the case that happened and the racism that went along with it and everything.
Yeah, he's really become sort of the figurehead, but it's showcasing the 60s right now, which is making it more enjoyable. And now we know the character development and everything. We know a lot more. I feel like I'm
learning names now, finally. Like, okay, so this person did this, this person did this.
Same, I didn't write down one name today to look at.
Yeah, exactly.
I know them.
Right, yeah, so let's just, we'll dive in, start from the beginning. So right away, the first scene, we kind of get in, and we see all the girls in the bedroom, and one of them singing, kind of calling to Cherry, even though she wasn't really calling to Cherry Pop, Emma. And the one girl says, when Charlie wants us to find Emma, he'll let us find her. And basically then Charlie comes in and starts again with his brainwashing and saying, the man wants us to react, and, we're always going to act about it. What did you think about that scene?
It was a short scene. It didn't necessarily have to be there, but they put it there to, I think, really just showcase the manipulation and the power, once again, Manson has over these people. It's all about Charlie.
Exactly.
Charlie. What's Charlie going to do? Why isn't Charlie going to go get Emma? And then he comes and reassures them. And it's just really showcasing what he has over these innocent girls that have really lost their way. And
the
he's
power
sort of
that he
preying
has.
upon. So...
Exactly.
That's why I think that was in there, because there was no much point to that. Just how they were reacting to Emma's
Exactly. It was just another thing to just show, all the strong power talk that Charlie's trying to tell them and get them to follow him and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then so then we move into after that. They say, "Oh, Charlie will help us find Emma when he wants us to," and then we move in. We see Emma at home with Grace and Ken. So we see them at the dinner table, and Emma leaves, and then they're talking. And they're like, we're going to put on a show. Or that wasn't the dinner table scene, but they did talk about putting on a show, and Grace is like, you can go on business, right?
Yeah. Grace wakes him up. He's sleeping on the couch.
Right.
Sort of condescendingly says, thank you for telling me where Emma is finally, and then pretty much calling him weak.
Right.
Saying, they're not a couple, but they're going to stay together just because of their daughter. And really, really laying it out.
She goes, wow, you finally did one thing right by finding out where Emma was.
Yeah.
And she was like, we're going to fool everybody. That's what she said. And it's just like...
Does she know he's gay?
I feel like that's still kind of a...
Or does she just think he's really weak?
I think that she thinks he's weak. I feel like she must have an inclination that, she's got to have a feeling.
Yeah, because, I mean...
and he's doing all this weird stuff. Like, he's just a weird dude.
His mind's just full, because the fact that, he's a homosexual in times where homosexuality is frowned upon, illegal, and he's involved in the Republican Party, who particularly frowns upon homosexuals at that time.
And he's a lawyer, he has this big job, and he's a big partner in it. And
I mean, he's just completely lost his way, and now Grace is trying to, just set them straight just for the sake of Emma right now, because Emma is so vulnerable, which we saw. And
then instantly after that, we see Sam and Grace in bed together. So then we cut to that.
Yeah, quite a cut. But
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they love each other. They confess they love each other, that show.
And we get back to, the whole love scene. So I guess we're going to see what happens with that as we go on. But yeah, so then after that, we kind of move into the riot scene, when Bunchy's there with his Black Panthers, and they're talking about how Cassius was burned in his house.
So we get back to, really showcasing the 60s. We have the Black Panther movement, which I think started in California. And I think the best way to describe them was really the opposite of Martin Luther King. They're a civil rights, African-American movement with the four... peace, equality for African Americans, but they promote violence, whereas Martin Luther King promoted peace.
Exactly.
So they're the opposite of that's the best way to describe him. And what do we have going on? We have a African American who was burned to death, because he was involved, because they thought he was sort of going against the African American Black Panther movement.
And they start talking about, the man that died 3 days ago, which is Michael Unger, and how the police aren't doing anything about that. So then they're not going to give up what happened to Cassius because they're upset about Michael Unger because nothing's happening for him. Like, the cops don't even care. A cop might potentially be involved in it. So, you kind of get all that. And they said Uncle Sam dies in a fire and you all come running, but they can't do anything for Michael Unger, who is just a teenager, and he's an African-American teenager in that time. And
I like how they did that too, because situations like that obviously happen so much where, police brutality towards black people, probably some murders, unsolved cases, police turning a blind eye, and they showcased that with this particular triangle where it was retaliation for the Michael Young murder, who they're not investigating because Tolson, the cop, seems to be involved.
Exactly.
So it's all coming together, but... Which, this still happens today with the Fergusons and all that stuff. So this is 50 years on and we're still getting this sort of thing, but not to the same extent of the Black Panther movement of the 60s.
Right.
But I like the way they showcased it. I thought it was...
Right.
It was good.
Definitely, yeah. And then, we go into... kind of Sam talking to the Black Panther Party more, and, he enters and wanted to identify himself, and they weren't really having it, and then, he said that he wanted to help, and they were like, no black man in this neighborhood will ever help you, no matter what, from now on. So I thought that was pretty interesting, too.
Yeah, and it's just another thing you just wouldn't get away with these days, like... stopping a detective doing his job.
Exactly.
That just wouldn't happen.
Right.
They literally put they had guns to him and stopped him doing his job, stopped him arresting later on in the show the guy that they believe the suspect that did it, which would never happen these days, but just shows the racial divide in the 60s again. And, Sam's playing this with, open arms. He wants Tolson questioned, his fellow cop, and he's been accused of, going against his...
And it seems like Sam's the only one in this case that actually wants Tolson questioned at all. And it seems like Sam, we've kind of said that Sam's like kind of this laid-back cop that doesn't always go by the rules, and it seems like he really wants to get this case figured out because he wants to figure out Cassius, so in order to do that, he has to figure out Michael Unger. So it's like, it's just all in a circle. It's all bunched together, and it's all in a circle, and nobody can figure out anything because nobody will help the first case, and everybody just gets upset about it.
Yeah, we found that out this episode, that Sam doesn't go by the book. What he does sometimes to get witnesses to confess or suspects to confess can be borderline unethical, borderline illegal. But it seems like he wants the best interest of everyone in the end. He wants to get the right result.
Exactly.
He wants to get the case solved and get to the bottom of it, which he sort of seems to be a moral sort of guy in a weird sense, especially with the way he's handling his son, which we see later.
Especially, and not to get too far ahead, but in the end, near the end, when he's talking to... He's trying to figure it out with the new lieutenant, and he's like, we need to get this question, we need to get this figured out, and is so serious about it and so by the book. And then right when he goes out and sees Brian, then he's kind of like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And Brian's like, wow, you're not going to do anything again? And he's like, you know what, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like he's kind of like behind the scenes, he's really trying to like go by the book and figure out everything. But then when he gets in front of Brian, because we always say, we're like, oh, Brian and him, like, they don't really get along, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like he's just trying to put on this facade in front of Brian, but then in actual reality, he is really trying to help.
He is. I like their relation. And just think about this. Think about you're a white detective in the 60s, and you're actually listening to the Black Panther's accusations that your fellow cop was involved in a black person's murder. I mean, you would never want your police officer questioned. But Sam's actually that open, prepared to find out the whole truth, which I thought was very surprising.
And, I mean, the lieutenant even says, he's like, you think that this... the police here are ever going to let it out that a white cop had to do with a black teenager's murder? Like, we're never going to let that out. We're never going to let anybody know that.
And yeah, he's jeopardizing his safety doing this. Well, one thing we know about him, he's tough as nails. I mean, he doesn't
I think Sam should be the lieutenant.
He should.
And knock that other guy right off.
He's not intimidated by anyone. Sometimes I'm watching, I'm like, don't go up to them. There's two African Americans with guns in your face, and then there's Manson, you going into his place by himself. Sam doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He just...
I mean, for the times, for everything, like, he just doesn't, he's just... trying to do his job.
I survived World War II. You don't bother me.
I mean, he is a badass, so, I mean, that's just...
I love it. I love the way he's playing this role, David Duchovny. I think it's phenomenal.
I know. Anyway, so then, after that, we kind of get into the scene of Emma going back to school. And, she's in the car with her mom, and she's like... oh, so we're just going to go back and pretend like nothing happened? And the mom's like, nothing did happen. So again, we see Grace trying to just put everything behind her, act like nothing happened, just put on a whole facade, pretend like their family's this perfect model family when obviously everything's like falling apart at the seams.
I mean, this is so interesting to me because the last thing you want is your daughter to run back. So... I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. How would you handle this in her situation? Because it's an awful situation to be in as a mother. Oh. And I don't know how you handle it.
How would I handle it as Grace?
Yeah, how would you handle it?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they never really talked about it because... at the beginning we see that Emma's home, and then we have the dinner table scene when, Ken gets up and takes a phone call, and then Grace and Emma are talking to each other, and she's like, the bad guys, they always search for... I don't know what she said.
That was the one bit of advice she sort of got. That's all she really said.
That's all she said. She was like, bad guys always go looking for trouble, basically, And that's all they talked about. And then all of a sudden they're in the car, and she's like, oh, remember when you were little, we did this, we did that. And I'm like, you need to actually talk about what happened with the Manson family and what Emma was doing and how she is now. Like, obviously she's kind of going to be a little messed up, and you can tell that she wants to go back there because she wasn't trying to leave in the first place. So I feel like the mom really... I mean, Grace didn't do that great of a job, and I mean, for me, I don't know how I would handle it because I'm not a mom, but I mean, if I was, I would like to think that I would handle it a little bit better just because, I mean, she didn't really, they didn't talk about anything, so how can you expect it to get better?
Yeah, I do feel for Grace a bit because you have a troubled child, a problem child, and you're terrified.
Right. She's
terrified inside, so she's almost too terrified to talk to her about it.
Exactly.
In fear of complete... retaliation and rebellion, So it's just, but in actual fact, she probably has to. She has to establish that mother-daughter relationship again.
And, I mean, Grace just has so much on her plate right now. Like, everything with her daughter and everything with Ken, and she just feels like she has no one to turn to, basically.
What's she going on? She's got a daughter that's just running away, a troubled daughter. She has a husband who's in the closet, high-profile lawyer, weak as water, Republican, and then she's having an affair with her ex-boyfriend who's the detective.
You know what's really weird when you think about it is that Emma and her father are both sleeping with the same man. Now that's messed up.
I never thought of it
right?
that way.
When they were at the dinner table, I was like, ooh.
Oh, gosh, come on.
Right? I'm like, oh, no. So, I mean, obviously Grace doesn't know that at this point, but...
But imagine she found that out. She will later.
Well, I'm sure she knows that Emma was sleeping with him, but did she?
No, she doesn't. I don't think Emma knows.
I don't think. Well, Emma definitely saw them together and thinks that something weird's going on, but I don't think that she thinks that they've slept together.
I mean, the way you put that was just creepy.
The dad and the daughter, right?
That's creepy. That's gone the wrong way on me.
Okay, let's move on. So then we see.
Right. You're spot
exactly.
On. I just never thought of it like
exactly.
that.
So then we see, Grace and Emma are trying to reconcile, and so she pretends like she's going off to school. She has this little bow in her hair as if she's this perfect little child. Oh, it's no big deal. I was just doing all this crazy stuff. Now I'm going back to school. So she goes back to school, tries to escape, and little does she know, we have Joe Wilson, the babysitter, come up, and he's like, where do you think you're going? And she's like, and he's like, I'm your new babysitter.
I love that moment.
I know. I was like, okay, Joe Wilson coming in strong.
It was obviously the old, hard-ass detective that's a bit short on money and wants to make a few bucks, so he's babysitting Emma and he's not letting her out of her sight.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah.
It was good, because she was just about to walk out of school and back.
She was going to go straight back. But I love how, her costume, how they had, the bow in her hair. And, you just have to play her like she's some, little pristine child.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Grace played that wrong, didn't she? Dressing her up, sending her back to school the first day.
Well, she's just, like we said, trying to make it look like she's a model family.
Let's forgive and forget. When natural fact, there are deeper problems there that need to be addressed, obviously.
Exactly. Yep. And then we see Sam tries to ask the guy in the restaurant. His name was Nate. He tries to ask him who burned Cassius, and then Sam says that Sam's not his friend. He's like, basically, I'm not going to be friends with a white man. And Nate and Sam, it seemed like they had a good relationship before, but now that all this racism and violence is going on, it seems like he just won't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, Sam looked shocked then too. It seems like they were friends.
Right, exactly. And then he says, a good kid wound up dead probably because he likes the cops. So it's just like everything has to do with, being white or black and the cops.
Again, it's all a circle. This whole racial divide of the 60s and the cops, and it's fascinating to me, some that never lived in the 60s, obviously, but I look like with these wrinkles. But
oh my God, yeah, you look so old.
It's good to see, because the 60s was probably the most influential decade of the 20th century, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So then after that, we get into this scene at the Peach Pussycat again. We go back to there.
Love that name.
With the Peach Pussycat. I can't really say it. And then we see Nate, or not Nate, just that Nate. We see Lucille and we see Brian, and we're introduced to a new character who I think is going to be very important, Jimmy 2. What do you think about Jimmy 2?
I mean, Brian's great at going undercover.
Oh my God, I know.
I mean, he finds them. He finds the right connections, Mm-hmm. Jimmy 2 is going to play a bigger part coming up.
Well, especially because we find out that Jimmy 2's father was Manson's cellmate.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So Jimmy's dad was Manson's cellmate. So that's a huge thing. And we know that Brian's trying to get Jimmy 2 somewhere near Manson and form this connection with them.
Yeah, so I like how that's playing out. So he's going to be around Jimmy 2. We don't know much about him yet. He was sort of quiet. He didn't say that much, but
mm-hmm.
we know his background, and
mm-hmm.
he's going to be around. I'm just
right.
Again, I haven't watched past this episode. Have you?
No, I haven't. I don't know if I kind of want to, and then I kind of don't, just because I want to go along with.
Yeah, don't, because then we can't make predictions.
Exactly.
We can't even do the segment. But
it's kind of weird that all the episodes came out at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know what was a Netflix thing. Were they trying to compete with them? I don't know, but I'm going episode to episode, and I've decided. So are you?
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's what we're gonna do then.
Because there might be listeners that know the whole thing. Just try and put yourselves in our heads that we only know the end of episode 5.
Exactly.
So, but Jimmy 2 is going to play an important part.
Right.
I don't know what's happened to Charmaine. I love her.
Yeah, where's Charmaine? She hasn't been in the last. She's gone. She's gone. We haven't seen her in the last 2 episodes now.
No, I noticed. I really thought I was going to see a big part of her today. I was waiting for her. I didn't see her.
I feel okay. Well, hopefully, she wasn't in it at all. Maybe she's got to make a return next week.
This is how bad, the Australian version of, Hollywood is, that she was talked up all over Australia as having this big NBC role in this new David Duchovny show, Aquarius, and she hadn't even seen her the last 2 weeks.
Exactly.
The Australian media made it out to be, she's the star of the show.
Right, and she hasn't been in it. But
she hasn't shown up.
We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
So then, next we go into Charlie in the parking garage. Remember that scene?
That guy.
He brings out a razor every time he's in a parking garage. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's just crazy. And so we see Charlie with Ken's partner, his lawyer partner, and they're fighting about what happened in the case and how he didn't provide enough lawyer, what is that called? He didn't provide enough.
So help me out here. The lawyer said, what you have against me will never hold up. Do you think it will hold up? But what is that? Do we know?
It's just blackmail. I don't know what exactly.
Was he gay as well? Did he have?
I don't think so. So he said, what you have against me is never going to live up to what I have against you. So
we don't know what that is yet.
No, we don't know what that is. All I know is that, obviously Ken and his partner represented Charlie in some manner. We know that Ken's partner did say that Charlie was doing pimping out. He was doing like prostitution and stuff. Yep. So we know that, but we don't know like any of the details of that. So basically it's something with Ken and his partner about how they didn't represent Charlie good enough, and he's mad about it. I think maybe it was because since Charlie and Ken were sleeping together, Charlie thought that Ken should have represented him better and given him more leeway, and he wasn't able to, and something happened there that...
Something did happen because Charlie keeps coming to the car park thinking he has something over them, so they're going to listen. But that guy stood up to him. He had enough.
Right, and they specifically said about blackmailing each other, so it's just kind of weird. And I seriously don't understand what the whole thing is, and I feel like that's something that we're obviously going to learn, but it's just kind of weird right now. Because we still don't know why Charlie's so upset about it. Like, we know he represented him, but that's it.
That was a convincing moment for the lawyer, calling him a terrible musician, a try-hard musician.
I thought that he was going to go like crazy and just like kill him, and I was like scared, and then like he just drove away in his Corvette and it was over.
He gets in the car and he's off.
But you know what else was weird is that at the end of that scene, Charlie was yelling at him. He's like, "You'll see me do my best. I'm gonna do my best." Like, what was that all about?
I don't know. Charles upset. That was 1 to the lawyer, 0 to Charlie.
Right. After that, he just like drove away in his car. He's like, "I'm not even dealing with you, dude.
I'm done with this. This has gone long enough. You're a nobody. You're a guy that has all these, problem children in your house."
Right, exactly.
And tries to be a musician. What do we care about you?
What do we care about you? Exactly. So then after that, we kind of go into the presidential election, or it wasn't an election, but it was a presidential event that Grace was at and Sam was at, and then Ken and his partner were both at. And then we see, Grace calls the babysitter and says, "Oh, how's Emma doing?" And then you kind of see her trying to sneak out, but then she didn't sneak out because she saw the babysitter on the phone with her mom. And then Grace and Sam start making out, and then Ken and the partner see it.
No, I mean, just hold off until the end of the party. I mean, show some just patience.
Thank you, Guy, because I don't understand, because Grace was the one that was so intent on, we're going to live this perfect life, we're going to live this perfect family. And then here she is just making out with Sam. Like, obviously they weren't in the way open, but they were where people could see them.
Show some restraint.
Right.
Just hold it, just wait a couple of hours, wait a day.
Well, especially because Ken's partner doesn't know that they're having all these problems, I'm assuming. And then all of a sudden he sees Ken's wife making out with somebody else, and then she just grabs Ken's arm and they go. Like, it's like, oh, nothing happened.
You're right. It was hypocritical by Grace.
Exactly.
What she was saying and then how she was acting.
Exactly.
But you just got to think that, all their heads are everywhere right now. They don't know what's going on with all the problems they have.
Right.
And do you think Ken even cares that she's having an affair?
Well, at the end, he did yell at her, and she said something, and he was like, "Do you really want to talk about lying right now?" So he kind of threw it back in her face.
I really thought he was just doing that to just get back at her in some way. I think he's completely gay and just does not care.
I think so too, but either way, he still was married to her. Like, he still obviously loved her.
Yeah.
Even if he is gay, it doesn't change the fact that he was married to this woman. He loved her. They did have a real relationship. But,
You think he loved her?
I do think he loved her. Yeah. They had a child together.
Sometimes I think it was just a political campaign.
It could have been. That's true. I feel like at one point they were in love. Well, yeah. I take that back. I think that Ken was probably in love with her, but remember in the first episode, Sam was like, "Why did you marry him?" And she was like, "My dad liked him."
Yeah, the Republican, the lawyer, the money, of course, in the 60s, a perfect one for your girl to marry.
Maybe he didn't love her. Maybe it was just a cover up, but I don't know, because they had this family, and I feel like either way they obviously felt something towards each other, and then he did throw it back in her face. He was like, you can't talk to me about lying anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't really know.
Yeah.
So then after that, we go back to the Peach Pussycat, and then we see the Peach Pussycat.
In Vegas
we go back.
I'm going to make one of them. I'm going to buy one.
They probably patented it. Why wouldn't they?
Belong in Vegas or somewhere? The Peach Pussycat.
Yeah. So we go back to the Peach Pussycat, and we see Brian outside with Lucille and Jimmy too, and they're kind of like laughing about the fact that Lucille's husband is dead. They're like, "Oh, what do you call him?" And she's like, "A dead husband." And then so then we see Brian is talking to them, and he's like, there's that guy, Charlie, and if you guys ever want to get obliterated, let's go with him. So he's trying to form the connection, like we were saying before, trying to form it right there to bring Jimmy to Charlie. So something's going to go on with the two of them.
Yeah, Brian plays the part well, even though he was, drunk or stoned or stumbling his words, and he does the whole thing well, and he's getting results. I mean, Sam should be more thankful. He got the connection to his kid. He's got the connection to man.
Brian's killing it right now.
He saved Sam from actually killing Manson. He would have killed him.
Sam would not be anywhere if it wasn't for Brian. I think we can all attest to that, right?
I completely agree. And he's doing the dirty, the undercover stuff. No one wants to do that job, right? That's the most dangerous job out there.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's what I would think.
But he's good at it. But I mean,
exactly.
I'll save. I think he's going to get. I'm going to save for predictions, but
okay, all right. He's going to get into some type of trouble.
I think he's going to get found out, or there's something's going to happen.
That's a good. Yeah. Okay, so then we see this part I really liked too was when Susan Atkins went to the door and pretended to be the classmate of Grace or of Emma to get her out of the house, and I thought that was like. I didn't know who this girl was the entire time, and obviously people that have researched Charlie Manson or anything like that, they know that Susan Atkins was a real-life figure that had a huge played a huge part in the Charlie Manson murders and all the stuff with Charles Manson. So it was kind of funny to me that this girl, the entire time we saw her here, we thought that she was just a random one, and then she comes to the door and she's like, "Oh, I'm Susan Atkins," and I was like, "Oh my god, it makes sense." I thought that was cool to just throw that piece of history in there and make the character come to life a little bit.
Yeah, I completely missed it. I know Susan Atkins from the reading I've done, but I must have been chewing on some popcorn they provided at the time. I just didn't register.
Catch the name, yeah.
But I was thinking, Grace, you idiot, don't let her in, you idiot, oh, you're stupid. But I thought that was good, how they did combine a historical person into it again.
Well, it's kind of wasn't Grace smarter than that? She went to the house, she saw all those girls there, I mean, obviously she wouldn't recognize her face, but it's kind of sketchy, and I feel like that's something that totally could have been avoided. I mean, Emma would have probably escaped anyways, but...
Grace is like a yo-yo. She does some smart things, she does some dumb things, she's scatterbrained, she's hypocritical sometimes, she doesn't quite know what's going on. And again, I'll come back to the fact that she hates her husband, she loves someone else, and her daughter's all over the place.
Exactly.
It does your head in. It's not when you grow up, the picture family you want, is it?
Right. Yeah, so then we kind of move back into, after this, we move back into the Black Panther movement. So we see the cousin of Cassius, Culpepper, and, the police aren't doing anything. Well, the police are trying to get him, but the Black Panther Party won't give him up until they do anything about Michael Unger. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I saw that completely. And again, I came to my point earlier that just wouldn't happen these days.
Right.
They literally stopped him and would not turn him over.
That part I actually stopped it and rewound it and watched it again, just because I was when I first saw it, I was like, wait, okay, so who is this, what's going on with this? And then I rewound it and I was like, okay, so the Panther Party will not give up this man, even though they knew that he had something to do with the murder, just because they wanted to make sure that something was done about Michael Unger's case.
Yeah, they don't care about that guy. What's his name? Do we know it?
Who?
I've forgotten it. The guy that Hodiak wants to arrest for the murder of the guy that ran and got protected.
Culpepper.
Oh,
yeah, okay. Culpepper, that's a cool name.
The Black Panthers don't care about Culpepper.
No,
he's actually not technically in their party either.
Oh, no, they don't care about him. They just want to make a point that they need to do something about Michael Unger, because it's been 3 days.
This blackmail thing again.
Yeah.
You don't cooperate, we won't cooperate.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing, is they just want to make a point and prove that, it doesn't matter. We're going to protect anybody just to make sure that we get justice for our people.
Yeah, and it's so surprising to me that Sam is so interested. Sam wants this all to be resolved. I thought that he'd just get 10 police units in and just wipe them out, and the rest of the guy move on with it.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I don't know. That part was it was just crazy. But yeah, I mean, and then we go back into the fact that we see, like we kind of mentioned before, and now we're getting into that fact that Brian saw, that Sam was talking to the lieutenant, and the lieutenant was saying, we're never going to give up the fact that a white cop murdered a teenage black man. We're never going to give that up. And then he was like, we have people very high up protecting Toulson. So I thought that was kind of like, I mean, obviously we knew that the police department was behind him, but he's like, we have people very high up protecting Toulson. So it was like,
Sam didn't even back down. He threatened to go to even higher sources to get the justice. But I was almost thinking, just leave it alone. You're going to get yourself in more trouble here. This is politics you're getting into. This is the higher up in the.
Right. So I think just here again we see, everything that goes on with the police in this time in the 60s going into the 70s, what they're all about, who they care about protecting. I feel like that was a really pivotal thing that happened.
Without admitting that Toulson murdered him, he virtually admitted it.
Exactly.
So he didn't actually say he did it, but he said, you will not...
No, yeah, you're spot on.
You're not touching him. You're not questioning him. I don't want anything to do with this. You're protecting your fellow officer.
Right. Yeah, and then, I mean, what I think was one of the most important parts of the entire episode, we go into Sam seeing his son Walt for the first time. So I thought that part in general was just... crazy because we find out a lot of stuff. We find out that he left the military because he saw that illegal stuff was going on. They were doing things in Cambodia that they shouldn't have been. There was a lot of casualties and just. I mean, what did you think about that whole scene with Walt and his dad?
I mean, it was so interesting because all of a sudden you have Sam is in a similar situation to Grace. They both have children that could get themselves into some serious trouble here. How do you handle it? Walt thinks that he's going to be a hero by turning to the press and saying the U.S. government's doing like illegal warfare, which I don't even know if you can do illegal. Isn't war illegal? I don't know. But by killing children in Cambodia, when actually, if he says something like that, he's still classified as a traitor.
Right.
You don't mess with the government back then. That will turn it completely around on him. He will get arrested. He'll go to jail. And Sam knows that.
Sam knows it.
So Sam knows and is trying to convey in the best way possible, how do I educate my son? You just can't go doing this. You might think you're a hero by standing up for human rights, but it doesn't work like this, This is your own personal welfare at stake here. And he was loving, he was touching him, he was rubbing his face, but he was also trying to...
Well, he was trying to tell him, too, because, Walt's sitting here, he's like, there's saturation bombings, and we're killing children and civilizations, and he's really trying to, do the right thing, and he's like, I don't want to kill these people, I want to... And Walt's kind of like, that's what war is, and he's like, Walt, I'm sorry, but that's what... Or Sam says that. He goes, well, I'm sorry, that's what war is. And he's like, I'm not taking part in this. I know they're going to call me a traitor. And Sam's like, please, please, please don't do this. Like, it's going to be terrible for you. Your life is going to be ruined. And Walt's just not having it. He's like, we cannot talk about it. But then at the end, we kind of see that Walt's like, let me help you. Let me be a part of this, and I'll help you, help yourself and not go to the press and just figure out your own way. And Walt's like, I don't know if you can help me.
Yeah,
so, I don't know what's going to happen with that.
What does he think going to the press? I think he knows he'll be in trouble, but I don't think he knows the exact amount of trouble he'll be in, because he's virtually... That's classified information.
Right. Well, it seems like he's a little naive, too, because he's like...
Very naive.
Right. Well, he's like, the president... I have to tell everybody that the president is lying to the American people. And Walt's like... son, I'm sorry, but the president lies to the American people every day. Like, that's part of his job. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but what do you think's going to happen there?
Walt's going to get himself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he's the problem.
Well, he joined the movement, the anti-war movement. So it's like, he was in the military, he was there fighting, and then he joined the movement. And it's like, something's going to come crashing down there, because that's not something that you can just do. And it comes down to Sam's ex-wife is also stupid and naive, listening to her son and getting him out straight away, and it could cause all sorts of propaganda. Exactly.
Just so Sam's got that to worry about. Sam's in all sorts right now.
Right.
He's drinking again. Grace is abusing him. He's got his son. He's just beat the hell out of Manson.
Right.
He would have killed him if Brian didn't save him.
Oh my God.
He's got some issues there too right now.
Exactly.
So, what do we got? 7, 8 episodes for this all to be resolved?
Yeah, basically.
Come on, it's episode 5 already.
I know. Yeah, so then, I mean, we kind of go into the last scene where Emma's gone, and, you know, Grace is just kind of ripping on both Ken and Sam, and she's like, Sam, you never do anything right. You failed again, blah, blah. You, like, every time I try to have you do something, you fail. And then we see that Sam starts drinking again, and Sam previously was sober before this, and now he was sitting there at his bar, and he had his glass, and then he poured it, and he kind of looked at it, and then he just downed it real quick, and we were like, that was the first of many, and he's just going back into an old spiral now, so I think that's going to be interesting how that plays out.
What did Sam do wrong? I mean, he went and got Emma, he got a former detective to watch her the whole time, and ultimately it was Grace that screwed up. It was all Grace's fault, and she's completely laid into him, calling him a failure, brought back past memories. We're going to find out how Sam was a failure.
Right.
Soon.
She said, too, that he always lies. So, that's what she said. You know, you always lie, and then that's when Ken said, you can't talk about lying right now.
And it's obviously true too, because you know, it's like you let things slide if they're not true. You don't really care. Like, you can say that you're just temperamental, you're upset, but if something hits deep in you, it triggers past behavior, which is his drinking. So he just started drinking. That was all Grace's fault.
Well, that's what I'm kind of confused about. Why is Grace like, I mean, obviously she's upset, extremely upset, and she just needs someone to take it out on, I'm assuming, but like, what really, like, deep down, like, does she think that Sam did? Well, like, what does she think that he did? Because she's the one that let her in the house.
No, she knows he did nothing. She knows it was her fault.
Okay.
But as far as I see it, the reason they're not together is something happened in the past, like that made them not be together.
Right.
And she just lost it, realised she stuffed up, and decided to take it out because she still loves Sam.
Okay, so she knows that he didn't do anything wrong in this situation.
Yeah, she just completely lost it. And then she started thinking about the past, I think, and how they were together and how they should be together and not, and the kid and this and that. And I think she just completely started calling him a failure.
Right.
I mean, he didn't do anything.
Well, I don't think so.
And
well, maybe there was something that he did. I don't know.
And she didn't even say anything. That she didn't say when she was yelling at him, you did this. She's just like, you're a failure. You're a failure. You've always been a failure at life. That's all you are.
And she started off saying, you know, how could I have let her in? So we kind of, she admitted that she let her in, but I don't understand how.
That was the weird thing about it.
Well, at first I thought she said, how did you let her in? And I was like, rewind. I was like, how did she? And then I was like, okay, she knows that she let her in. And it wasn't anybody else's fault, but then she still went off on everybody. I think she's just under so much stress, like you said, that she just can't handle it. She just
snapped. I mean, I've been snapped at by women for no fault.
Exactly. It just happens.
But you've got.
But then he shouldn't give up his whole sobriety just for that. Like, she's just snapping at him because she's upset for a minute. Like,
and that's why it's a deeper issue with Sam. Something serious happened. Otherwise, you just be like, oh, she's just emotional. Get over it. Let's go. He actually started drinking, and then he nearly killed Manson and ruined his life.
And I feel like it really, gets to him because he does really love Grace. I mean, no matter everything that happened, they love each other so much, and it's just really hard for him, I think.
Yeah, and I want to find out why they aren't together.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the dad that thought he was a failure, Grace's dad, and sort of the Republican, the politician, the lawyer, the whole money. And I don't know, but I think we'll find something out.
Well, let's just say thank God for Brian, because he definitely saved Sam.
Literally saved him.
But he also saved Charles Manson's life, and lots of stuff could have been avoided if that was wouldn't have. If that would happen. I think
he was one more right hook from killing him.
And then we saw Charles at the end, and he was just like, like completely dead, dead, and all the girls were screaming like, "Oh my God!" Like, you're crazy. But all right, so I think now we kind of went through the episode, and I think we should get into predictions.
As do I.
All right.
Now, your AFTERBUZZ TV
predictions. All right. So, what do you think's going to happen? You first.
Well, I'm going to focus, like I said earlier, on Brian. Brian's now he's going to be the hero that saved Manson's life, and everyone's going to be worshipping him too. And I don't know if Manson's going to get jealous of it, even though he saved his life, or people might get involved in Manson's camp might get jealous of Brian because he's having all the accolades and stuff, and start looking into him a bit more and digging a bit deeper.
Okay.
And I think his cover will be blown. He's going to have a lot of people after him. Sam's going to have to come into bat for him. He's going to have to go into hiding or something. I think Brian's world's about to blow up somehow. Now, the people that watch the episodes and this didn't happen are laughing at me right now, but this is my prediction.
I don't know if Manson's people are that smart, like that they're going to be like, let's research this guy. I mean, the first time he went into...
I don't think they're smart, but I think they're so crazy about him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think that now... Well, it could go either way, but I think that now that he went off on Charles Manson, almost killed him, I think that Charles is going to go back and try to take revenge on Sam.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, we sort of know that's going to happen. We saw it in the commercials at the end.
I didn't see the commercials at the end.
Oh, well, your prediction's right.
My prediction's right.
It's all about revenge.
Gosh.
I want revenge.
That's
I want
so
revenge
great.
on Hodiak.
I think I predicted that before the commercials came out. But
what's the end tip called? Next week. What's it called? There's a word for it.
Yeah, like the sneak peek for next week.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction, and I know it's right already. And I do think Brian's definitely going to be worshipped by the entire crew. So.
Is he now a hero?
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. And for those of you that watched it already, don't tell us. Don't spoil it in the comments.
Can you imagine if someone just spoils it?
Oh, my gosh,
goes
don't.
On YouTube,
please.
Just spoils it.
Please don't spoil it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching episode 5 of Aquarius. We appreciate you watching and listening. And, remember to rate, subscribe, everything. I'm Paige Bonanno. I'm your host. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Paige Bonanno.
Follow me on Twitter, at Guy and a Girl Show. See you guys.
Thank you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.